Bob, I actually didn't mean to do this, but I have got a panel here that's representing children of very different ages and stages, so which I think will help the conversation for everyone here today and everybody from home, because we're all going to be in different points to this. I'm going to start with Bob. I was going to get you all to introduce Judith and Kat already have, but at least get the gentlemen to introduce what their family makeup looks like. Bob and I have been advocating together on the road to Canberra for the better part of 25 years probably, and Bob remains Autism Awareness's greatest supporter. So Bob, what brings you to the Profound Autism Alliance?
Yeah, so my son is 35. He still lives at home. He's had, for 11 years, he's had a goal in his NDIS plan to shift away from that, but there's been absolutely no progress on that at all. But I'm not sure I can completely blame the NDIS about that. That's another story. My son is living a really good life. He's enjoying his life. So he's profoundly autistic, but he's probably one of the profoundly autistic people that I know, he's probably leading one of the most contented lives. And I put that partly down to his early intervention. And he had more early intervention than any child alive today in Australia.
Next to Jack Rogerson, I will just say.
Well, okay. He had more for longer. and the person who started all of that,
Liz Watson, who doesn't want us to call her out. Hello, Liz Watson. We blame Liz for everything.
That's right. She can attest to that. Look, it's been a really interesting experience. So, I have a severely autistic son who still lives at home. He's a really interesting character. I have learnt so much about life. I mean, he's an arithmetic savant. He can multiply two 5-digit numbers in his head like that. I haven't even tried him on 6-digit numbers, right? He learnt to do integer square roots from 3 well-chosen examples.
I actually don't know what that is, so let's just gloss over that part.
But there were people trying to teach him how to do. They were trying to teach him how to do budgeting, and he could do all of the sums, but he had no idea. He doesn't understand what money is for, right? So he doesn't know that when you go to the shop, you have to give people money, but he can do every sum that you can imagine with money.
So I think what's great here is Bob's son is in his 30s, Judith's son is in his 20s, Kat's the young one here today, and Tim, I've got you right in the middle. Can you explain a little bit about your son and your family?
Sure. So I'm dad to Alex. Alex is a profoundly autistic, beautiful young man. He's very noisy. I think he'd be officially non-verbal, but is he noisy? He has a fantastic team around him, so hi to anyone on Team Al who's joined us. He lives at home with us still. We're still in the stage where we're trying to live with him for as long as possible. We think that gives him his best quality of life for now. He's bigger and taller and stronger than his mum and dad, so we call in a fair bit of help. He'll be out and about doing things that he likes and that give him a lot of sensory input. I mean, the pictures of Jack swinging up that high on the swing, Alex does that too, to the point where everyone's thinking, can these go upside down? And he's a great guy, but every day is like a huge mountain for him. So it's such a relief when he finally goes to sleep at night and he can have a reset. So the morning will start and things will build during the day. You might get moments or blocks of time where he's enjoying the relationships, there's peace and pleasure, he's enjoying some sensory thing or just echolalia with people that he does life with, and then other moments where it's just chaos and utter distress. It's heartbreaking, but it's real. So I'm here, I guess, representing Team Alex, my wife Emily, and we also have another son, older son James. So type.
And Tim came to my awareness because Tim's one of those parents that advocates deeply for his son, but then writes one bloody hell great submission to the NDIS and to the federal government to make that point. So coming back around to that idea of, we're using the term profound autism, and let's not discuss the term or use or otherwise, but how do you describe your families? Because it's different, right? If somebody says, we've broadened the use of the term autism so much it's almost become meaningless in what it means. If you say to somebody, my son has autism, it's really, that doesn't tell you much, right? You need to describe it. How do you guys describe it? Is it different? Or is autism still the word you use? Start with you, Judith.
Very interesting question. I think in our lives, we don't use the terminology a lot. We're a very tight-knit family who've, we had lots of ups and downs, like I'm sure many of you have too. I think for me, like when I'm trying to describe it, I'm like a broken record, but recently I mentioned I took Jack to Washington to go to the Hill and meet people. And so we had this really tragic incident that I didn't mention before. I was in my hotel room with Jack, and he loves to go on airplanes and trains, and so we do that. And sometimes it's messy and sometimes it's not. In this incident, I was the one who had the crisis. We were in the hotel room. We went to bed at 8 o'clock at night the night before, which I actually kind of love. It was really nice. But then we were up at 4 a.m. and there was no coffee in the room. And that was my crisis. There was no coffee. So I couldn't leave to go get coffee. And I really wanted to. I wasn't going to make Jack get up and go because he was still kind of crashed out on the bed. So it's just that reality that this young man, who I wish could give me a look, go jump in his car, drive to the airport wearing flip-flops and jump on a plane and go party somewhere on an island with friends. I'd love him to have that freedom. He deserves that as a person. He can't even be left alone while I just go downstairs to get a cup of coffee. And I don't feel sorry for myself for that. Well, I do a little, but I hate that for him. But that is our reality. It doesn't make him less of a person. It doesn't make him a burden. But I think the world needs to understand that so that there are others who can support him as a person, who he is. Because he's going to live probably 40 more years after I'm gone if I have a normal life expectancy. And so humanity has to be ready for this group and truly understand, no, I'm not a helicopter mom. I'm really not. You can't be left alone.
Yep.
So what are we going to do about that? And so that's sort of the definition that we live with. We tag team. You saw in the video, we do a lot of tag teaming, and it's made us very close. It's also made us yell at each other a lot, too. They didn't film that part, but it's not
Yeah,
all...
you guys look like you like one another.
Yeah, we do like each other. We like each other enough to be really mean to each other, too. And Jack is the meanest to all of us. He'll go off and tell us to go away. So anyway, it's that sort of life. And then my peers are living their lives where they have empty nests, and they're doing different things. And that's just not who we are. And it's not something I'm grieving over. My husband's not really either. We're so used to it. But it's an honor, actually, to be Jack's people. We've grown to really honor that. But there's no retirement. There's no
gold watch.
No days off. Yeah, no gold watch. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Bob, how do you see it? How do you describe it? Because you live in a lot of different autism worlds.
Yeah, I do. I sort of have to span all of this. My personal experience is at age 5, my family knew I was already different, personally, me, right? And I come from a family that was proudly different, the whole family. And in my family, within my cousins, there are a number of profoundly autistic kids, but also mostly high achievers. Relatively high achievers, but a lot of sort of social dysfunction, I suppose. And for me, I sort of go, well, I'm 75 now, right? I had a pretty successful career. I wouldn't call it a career, it was just an accident that happened to me. But it was pretty successful, frankly. And it wasn't until I actually came to the NDIS that for the first time in my life, it's actually been that my communication style has actually been a problem. I don't know if you know this, but I'm currently banned from attending co-design with the NDIS because of my communication style.
Which is sometimes blunt.
Always blunt. So I'm happy to wear the term neurodivergent. Very happy with that. I love the term. I think it's great. But I would argue that I've probably never needed assistance in my life. So I would not meet any of the levels, the 3 levels for autism in the diagnostic criteria, okay? Happily neurodivergent. I have never needed support in my life. So I do not meet the criteria for autism. I do not understand people who say, I'm autistic, but I don't need support. For me, I'm like, what definition of autism have you got? Which is the big problem here, is you know, what is the definition that we're now operating under? And, you know, that's just what I'll say about the word autism, really. Yeah. It's about needing support.
Yeah. Kat and Tim, both of you, you know, have been really open and honest about your happiness, a totally wrong word to use, but you were both really pleased and supportive of AAA throwing this event on. What is it about? Because, you know, using the word, putting profound autism in front of symposium did make some people cranky. What were your views on it?
I think we've lived in the shadows for too long. And that suppression of not having a public voice has affected our entire cohort support system. And that's not okay. So we need to get with the times. We need to be supportive of one another. Just to answer the previous question, my definition used to be suppressed by the voices on social media. I became fear-driven, I became guilt-ridden because the certain members of the community pounced on me for using a specific terminology. And as Eileen was saying, it made me retreat. I'm not afraid anymore. And we have to, as a community, band together to not be afraid anymore. There are so many important things that our community has to face than one word. And we are above all of that. The more that we stick together, the more supports that our children need. The housing conversation. Brent was saying, oh, it's so hard. It's challenging. You've got these hurdles to overcome. It's because we've been suppressed for so long. So the more that we can raise our voices and stick together as a community, we'll enforce change. We'll make policymakers make the change. And that's why as soon as you said to me, we're holding this Profound Autism Symposium, I said, I've got your back. Whatever you need me to do, I'm here, and I am here, and so are all of these wonderful people. We all have your back, and thank you for being the pioneer in Australia, for making this happen. It's the first.
That's nice of you to say, but I've been very honest right at the get-go. This is the first event I've ever held for Autism Awareness Australia where these aren't my people. This is not my group. My son doesn't have profound autism. So I felt really out of my league in should I even be holding this event. And then I looked and realised that some of my best friends in the world have kids with profound autism. And Tim, you were another person that was just so boldly advocating and so wonderful for the love of your boy. How does your family describe it? Do you describe it differently to autism? What is it to you? Autism plus plus?
No, we've adopted and used profound autism for a while. Like some people talk about maybe a slightly wider cohort, severe and profound autism. But yeah, we certainly see the need for a differentiation. We didn't used to worry about semantics and definitions and that sort of thing, and I never had bothered to visit a politician's office in my life. Holly Hughes, I only
Send me a lot of letters.
yeah. So this is the after. Before, you would have never known the prize existed, but once we saw a problem, which was we first got alerted to it. Perhaps when another family with a profoundly autistic son was sharing their story, and advocacy groups that we subscribed to the magazines and so forth on autism basically said, don't look at that. This is going to reinforce negative stereotypes, and this is not a good thing. We thought, oh wow, our son is being described by people who are supposed to be on our side as an unwanted stereotype. That wasn't cool. So that, I guess, for me and for, I guess there's a lot of the people that get a real fire in the belly might be the mums of those with profound autism, but I certainly get that. And where we could see that we could make a difference, we have tried to. Thankfully in the research community, some of the researchers that might be here have lent time for Emily, my wife, and I to input to them to try and get people like Alex more on their radar and included. We've wasted a lot of emotional energy into inputting to the National Autism Strategy and into various other things. I think we've made some progress, but boy, is that a frustrating process. So, I keep busy doing lots of things, and I give some part of my time to doing advocacy, try to do it as well as I can, and there's certainly a fire in the belly for that. So.
And I think that's the part, it's exhausting. One of our board members, Charlie Viola, Charlie's got a great saying where he says, our best day is everyone's worst effing day. But if you knew Charlie, you'd understand he can't have a whole sentence that doesn't include swearing. So Charlie's always like, what are you kidding? You got no idea what our days look like. What is a good day, though, for your families? I'd love to hear from all of you. Bob, what's a good day for your families?
Well, Kieran mostly has good days. So although he needs support 24/7, he can't leave the house without support. He enjoys his life. He's comfortable at home because he has things he can do. He helps around the house, and he knows what's going on. He has a day program that he can attend. So Kieran's days are mostly good days. So we're really at the light end of profound autism in our house.
Oh, you're not going to put a spectrum on this end, are you?
Well, I think you can. I mean, one of the things that blew me away, I wanted to say, is in the first episode of The Assembly, the second round...
Does everyone know what we're talking about? You know that show on the ABC?
So they've got this bunch of autistic people who are coming in to learn to be journalists, and there's a girl on that in a wheelchair who used her device to make a beautiful speech about how she was non-verbal and wanted to represent all the voices speak for all the non-verbal autistic people. And I thought, so my son, who is hyperlexic, he can give you a dictionary definition of every word in the English language, and he can probably understand about 6 other languages, cannot tell you what happened in his day, right? He comes home and you say, what did you do today? And he said, I had fun. It is absolutely reliable, and it is virtually impossible to get any more of an answer from him. So he's verbal enough to know that he needs to answer, but he has no way to put a sentence together, and he cannot understand the difference between I and you. He has no use of pronouns, okay? But he has and my daughter, who did nursing, used to come home and bring home medical terms, and her favourite game was getting him to pronounce the most complicated medical terms that she could find. She actually had trouble with that. So she's got no disability, but she had trouble with the medical terms that were in her course. He would, without ever having seen them before, pronounce them perfectly. And I'm sort of thinking, this girl has no idea what non-verbal means. If you can construct a beautifully constructed set of sentences and put it out on the AAC, that does not represent anything like my son, who as I said, is on the mild end of the profound autism spectrum.
I knew you were going to make this harder than it needed to be. Judith, what's a good day in your household?
We just had a good day where Jack graduated out of his educational program. Where we live, when you turn 22, you age out of the school system. And I hear fellow caregivers talk about how, it's so nice, they don't really know, like blah, 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 so they don't understand this. I don't know what Jack knows. I don't make those assumptions. He doesn't communicate that he knows a lot about what's going on. He had not communicated that he knew he was graduating, but we, did the whole ceremony, and we had a party for him. And with all of it, I was not super enthusiastic because outside I was cheery, but inside I was like, because I kind of felt sad that he was losing his educational program. He'd been in the same program since he was 4, now he's 22, like that connection was going to be going away, those supports, and then you're going into the chasm of adult services where nothing was in place for him after graduating. And then, I threw a party because I thought, well, I threw my daughter a party, so I should throw him a party too. But then I'm thinking, he doesn't even care. He hasn't made no acknowledgement that any of this is happening. And I also decided the people that I invite, I'm not going to invite a bunch of people who just want to kind of show up for the party, but who Jack doesn't really know. So I kind of made a rule in my head, if Jack knows this person's name, if I said their name to him, he would kind of know who it was. That's who I'm going to invite. So that meant I didn't invite my in-laws.
This is a live stream, but it's called the internet, and it goes around the world.
Sorry. I did it, I'm if he saw them on the street, he might not even notice them because they haven't spent a lot of time with him. And my family's the same way too, so not just them. But I didn't invite, a lot of people that you'd think I should. I just invited people that he knew. So that ended up being a lot of people who had been on his team at school or in the community. And then our neighbors around us. Kat, you were talking about getting to know your neighbors. I've always done that too. We had new neighbors move in across the street. And so when I met them, I said, hey, if you see a large young man running down the street naked, don't panic. Just grab him, please. Just do it. Just grab him. So we've always been open about that so our neighbors know. And so my neighbor next door, one of my other neighbors, she texts me if she can't hear Jack screaming. You heard him making some noises in the video. Because she thinks something's wrong. She's like, we haven't heard Jack screaming today. What's going on? So we invited those people because he knows them, they know him. And I still didn't think he would care. And I decided I'm not going to put any pressure on him. If he wants to we had a tent in the front yard. If he wants to hang out in the tent where the cake is, fine. Or if he wants to go sit on my bed, and listen to Kanye, then that's fine too. Whatever he wants to do, it's his day. So we did that, and I don't think I've ever seen him look happier. He came and went. He went back to the room and sat and was alone for a while, and then he would come out and just hang out. Some of these people he had not seen for years, because they come and go. And the look on his face was one of contentment that I've never seen. And so the joy that I had kind of been missing in this whole process, because I didn't really know what's next, and I was sad to leave behind the supports that he had. It came just in seeing him being so happy with his real people. I loved it. It was great. That was the best day so far.
I love that story.
For me and my household, it's all about feeling. So if I can take their pulse by how they're feeling and how it makes me feel, that's kind of our benchmark. So we start our day, each one of the boys comes into my bed and we have snuggles and cuddles and kisses. And that's how we start every day. Sometimes there's 3 kids in my bed, sometimes there's 2, but boxer shorts are mandatory.
Yeah. No explanation needed.
No, yeah. And then our days are sort of around music and singing and fun and swimming and trampolining. One of the big things that we love to do is I'm quite a physical person, so I take the boys twice a week. We do personal training sessions. They do trampolining sessions. I have a dancing school. They come to dancing lessons. My little guys even sung on a stage. And all of these things make them feel good. We still sing the Wiggles and we still sing super simple songs. I have had a little bit of Nicki Minaj come into the mix lately, which has been cool. It's been different. But yeah, it's really just about a feeling for us. And I know immediately, non-verbally, if something's not resonating with them, and I follow their lead. And I make sure that I'm listening to them straight away. For me personally, it's a gin and tonic. I'll have a wine.
Why are you pointing at me when you said that?
I've been to your office a few times.
Allegedly.
But I'm sure Nick will have a couple of questions around self-care later, and I have some things that have really started to work. But, you know, Eileen said it too, and I think we all have our methods, but, you know, us feeling good is also a requirement of our household, and we are part of our household, so we just have to make sure that we are part of the equation as well.
Tim, what about you? What's a good day for your lot?
So we do... Alex had a day that we rated as good. We had to add this as a new thing on his data collection. So we every waking moment and hour that he's awake, we measure his arousal / distress and his anxiety. And both of these are very colourful heat maps, so we can try and do a lot of analysis of what's going on. And we had a day that we thought we actually need to capture this and call this a good day for Alex. And it was a very special day. It was a week or two ago. And what it looks like was he's probably not needing a bowel motion, because that usually makes things go in not very good ways. He's probably uncomfortable, in pain and distress. He's likely to be low on anxiety, so he's able to enjoy, not just forever needing to manage his anxiety, but he's able to actually enjoy some other things apart from coping with this constant barrage of anxiety that he just lives with. And his distress down at a low. We rate him 1 to 5. He never gets to a 1, but at a level 2, which is yellow on our charts. And what it looks like is he's just enjoying the company. So he's enjoying his favourite people, which is some of his family and his support team around him, and just doing things that he enjoys. And he might be wandering along with his arm around, someone, or nowadays they're probably shorter than him. And singing, he does a lot of singing. He'll make up just creative, he knows a few words, so he'll just toss in words to music that he likes. And if he's just content and not rushing, needing to get back to the car to go to the next thing, and they're just nice moments where relationships enrich life. And for everybody, they come home with a huge smile, thinking that's all worth it.
What do you do now, and do you care? Judith and I were referring to this earlier. I think it's a phenomenon that occurs after the age of 50, but I think it can be anything, which is you just don't have any fucks left to give. At what point? How do you cope when people look at you weird? When kids are little and people look at you, you can kind of take it with a grain of salt. But sometimes with adults with profound autism, some of those behaviours might get some odd looks in public places. Judith, you sound like you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I remember when Jack was younger, like especially around the years 2 and 3, when we were really coming to grips with the diagnosis and feeling the eyes on me, the stares and hot tears, my own hot tears, and just taking all that in and just feeling horrified with looks of judgment, and now like 20 years later, I take Jack into bathrooms, I take him, wherever we need to go. And if someone looks at us the wrong way, it sounds terrible, but I just feel bad for them, because they don't understand humanity at all. And I just don't care. And I'm like you, Kat. I don't like confrontation, really, But I'm really at the point where if anyone said anything to me, it's going down. Like, it's going down. Come on.
You don't look like that type, but anyway.
That is the one that I'm like, come on.
I'm not there yet.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
I'm not there yet, and I think maybe because your children are older and you've been in the journey longer. When I'm out in public with my kids and Oliver tries to strip naked in the middle of the Westfields, or I can feel a meltdown is imminent, or Joshua, who is faster than a Ferrari, decides to sprint because he saw something over there that caught his eye. It's horrible. It's judgmental. It's ridicule. It's horrendous. And it depends what mood I'm in. It depends on how much sleep I've had that week, not that night, that week. And I have multiple responses. One is that I go back into the car and I burst into tears and I can cry for 20 minutes. The other is I take Judith's approach and I'm like, listen here. And then sometimes I take the tactful approach and I say, hi, can I help you? You know, it's not cool for your 11-year-old to be staring at my child in that way. Would you like to come and meet him? Would you like to learn a little bit about who he is? So I have 3 different approaches. Maybe when I get to over 50 and my children are that little bit more, but right now it hurts.
Yeah.
And I hate it. And I hate it for them. I really hate it for them. It's not fair for those eyes to be cast on them. They're innocent. They're babies. They don't... And I know they're babies. He's already 5'6", 5'7", but... they're still babies in my eyes, and my job is to protect them as best as I can, and I can't stand the way that the public look at my children.
Yeah, I'm happy to...
Yeah.
So we've now got a 17-year-old, so we've been there, Kat. I think by now we realise Alex doesn't get embarrassed at all about what people think or say. We're so far past being embarrassed or caring as well.
You don't have to say whether you're 50 or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually the other side of 50, so maybe that's the advantage. But there are certain things, though, that do trigger us. So, part of the journey is the range of reactions. You see the best in people and you see the worst in people when you're out in public with our kids. So some people will pull their child aside in the pool and say, can you see that boy, how he's wearing earphones in the pool? Why do you think he's doing that? Do you think... And just explain to mate, you see how he keeps getting upset when you go over near him? Why don't we just swim over this side? And we think, super job, Mum, that is fantastic. And other times where we've had... It's shocking things that where people have... where we've asked them, could you please put your dog on their lead because... Our son's petrified of dogs off their lead, and we're about to have to run back to the car if you don't. Some people have responded with, well, society would be better off without your child because they're a drain on the taxpayer. And, that's the sort of thing. And, we had a very big, strong support worker with us at the time, so he could have probably thrown them 2 fences across, and I wouldn't have stopped him.
No.
But it was, so sometimes we do get triggered and we have to be, I guess, extend grace, assume that we don't know what's going on for that person as well. So they probably don't know what's going on for us with Alex, and we don't understand what's going on for them too. So that's usually a good place to go.
What about you, Bob?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Firstly, I have unreasonable self-confidence and I portray that through body language. So if I'm out with Kieran and there's a situation, my body language usually sorts it out really fast. Kieran also has his own thing. So when he's out, some days he's feeling social. And for Kieran, feeling social means that the first person who comes past, he will stop and he will ask them their name. And then he'll test for mastery. He'll ask them their name again and again. Because that's his life, right? And a lot of people think, gee, that's not good. But actually, that's his ability that's his desire for social interaction, right? He has no other social interaction really with anybody unless somebody's telling him what to do, okay? So this is actually him saying, I want to interact with you, and this is the only thing I have. And they'll ask him his name, and he'll give it back, and then he'll ask them their name again. And then that's usually it. He's had enough, and he's off. The only people this doesn't work for are the people wearing headphones and who cannot make eye contact, who cannot abide him, which is a really interesting lesson.
All right, we've got a question from Slido. And this one I'm going to open with Judith, because I think you have a really nice way of answering this. The question is, how do we as a group advocate for this cohort of children and adults without being torn down by others? So there's been reference, obviously, to social media. And if everybody got off for it, I think it would be a lot better. But how do we advocate? Because I know we had one family contact us about an event we had earlier in the year, and the mum said, yeah, I didn't come. It's called autism. It's just autistic people and their families talking about their experiences. And one woman wrote and said, I didn't really feel like I could come because I didn't think there was anything there for us. And I felt terrible that we had somehow inadvertently been exclusionary. But how is it, how did this all get so ugly, and how does everybody here feel confident about talking about their experiences without being yelled at?
Yeah, I think, we've all been learning about social media, and when it started, like we were sharing information, and then people just became competitive, and it became toxic, and there's ownership over terminology and all that sort of thing. And I think, well, first of all, I'll say real meaningful advocacy doesn't, for the most part, there are always exceptions, really contemplate the comment section of TikTok. In the United States, when I'm talking with members of Congress or their staff, we never talk about that. They ask me for research information. They want personal stories. And all that other stuff is just noise. And I've been doing advocacy for about 20 years. On the state level, I've done a lot, and then I've been focusing federally for the last few years. And I have not had a year that I have not passed some sort of legislation, which has been, now I'm going to jinx myself for 2026, where I didn't have some sort of change in legislation because of the advocacy that I did. And what I learned was the decision makers don't care about people fighting on the internet. That's the media.
That is
that's
so 100% true.
It's true.
So
it's
true.
true. And so everybody's so afraid. They're like, oh my God, this person said this, or they said that, or they take it personally. You're taking things personally from someone you've never even met. Think about that. Really think about that. All this, and I've been there, with the emotion of people saying things. People say things about me that are not true. I know that. That are unfair. Maybe they say things about me that are mean, but are true. I don't know. But all those things do not have any effect on the mission. They don't. And so once you have that clarity, which I think our loved ones with profound autism need and deserve, we can be smarter than the others who get all caught up in this stuff and just focus, move forward. Like you were saying, Kat, come together as a force and let all the noise be noise. And you know what? If every once in a while you want to jump into the noise, sometimes it's fun. Get in the comment section, talk to people, fine. Do not let it take over your life. I think we have really allowed that to happen. And if you really step back, what's happening in those online debates, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I think that's 100% right. Yeah. Kat, what about you? You can be fierce.
Look, I've been advocating and pushing for first responders to have autism and disability training as part of the curriculum for a really long time. It's a fight that I will continue to fight. We need more researchers. We need I would love, I have 3 boys. You can come to my house anytime and do clinical studies. We're happy to be part of it. And I think, you know, based off of what we're doing here today, I think it's going to now have a roll-on effect for the Australian community. The important thing is we don't let this be a solo event, that we now make sure that we continue to connect with one another, connect families to families, businesses to businesses, and build a cohort, build a consortium that is Profound Autism, and bring it to government. You are the pioneer in this space, and we need our own space. Tim, Bob, myself, I'm sure there are a few other people in the room. We were on the National Autism Alliance conversation. We've been in these conversations, but it's a silo conversation, and then we kind of get dropped like hot flies, right? So I think it still has to come at this point in its evolution. It still has to come from people in this room and the people who are live streaming, and we have to band together. And if that's through you, Nick, as the starting point, sorry to put you back in the hot seat, that's what we've got to do. But advocacy needs voices amplified. And if that's my parting message today, we need you. We need you to all be brave and find your voice, because it's not going to change if we don't. And our loved ones, our profoundly autistic loved ones, are going to suffer. We're already seeing funding cuts. We're already seeing the outcomes of this group not being recognised.
Bob, you're going to say something?
So I'm in this interesting position that over 20 years ago I was put into the convener position, and I haven't been able to extract myself from it for A4, right? And that role was the grassroots representation for autism in Australia. And I've tried to do that. I don't know how successful, the other people can judge that. But to this day, I sort of remain fairly true to that. So I'm absolutely committed to representing the profound autism bit, and I'm very obviously aware of what that is. But I still have the role of representing and supporting the whole rest of the spectrum. And I think I've sort of, for a while there are people going at me in the same way as other people have had, but it's really dropped off a lot. And I think it's just because I've remained true to advocating right across the spectrum. And people, it's very hard to criticise you if you do that, I think, as that's been my protection for doing this. So it's, you know, there are people who think I'm just out there advocating for this group and maybe for just the ABA part of it, which is not true at all. The evidence is very clear that I do try to represent and support. So this is not the only event I supported a whole bunch of stuff like sending people to the UN and all sorts of things. So really, for me, I mean, this is a really important part of what I do, but I'm still trying to advocate right across the spectrum, and sometimes that's made really, really difficult for me. But I'm prepared to keep doing that for as long as I can, which is not actually going to be much longer. But
Oh, yeah, I was threatening to retire. Tim, you don't know this, but I have this feeling at Autism Awareness about it's our job, if we were doing a bad job at showing all the different types of autism, it's on me to change that, because I think we have to show what all of our families look like, what the whole spectrum looks like, in order for people to understand its complexity. But Tim, you're actually always the person I think about late at night when I think I don't want to be letting someone down. It's I don't want to let Tim Pride down, because I think we have let you down in the past. What would you like to see comes out of this new advocacy?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. That's, I guess I'd like to see people like our kids recognised, valued for who they are, and as inconvenient and hard as it is, part of our society, properly part of our society. At the moment, they sit over for a lot of valid reasons, but not justifiable reasons, in the too hard box. So in almost everything, there's a too hard box over here, and we need to draw the line here. And unfortunately, it involves putting a screen so that we pretend that cohort over there doesn't even exist. That's most things. So I actually would put back to you that you seem brave enough to pull that screen out and let's get this stuff out of the box. Not sure where it's going to go, but or how much people are going to dislike me as a result. So I think kudos to you. There are some others as well. There's some brave people in different, throughout. So some of the people that work in the government are good people and good allies. Some people that work in advocacy are great people. Some of the researchers are good. A lot of people are scared. So I hope that a bit of momentum and a group of people that seem like they're sensible and smart and effective, including some people that are far more of those things than I am, is advocating for change, and that it's maybe a bit safer to come out and face reality. Yeah. So for me, a lot of the things comes down to can we, even though some of these frameworks and ideologies are helpful for some people and some parts of the spectrum, they're not helpful for other parts. So we just have to also bring the reality of those parts of the spectrum and deal with those properly and not pretend that they're not there.
Do you know, when we sent out a survey early to ask what people wanted to talk about at the Profound Autism Symposium, because for once I didn't act like I knew everything, the highest thing that people said they wanted to hear is they wanted to hear other family stories, and I don't think I could have picked 4 people better to tell their story today. So thank them all for coming. Thank you.